Good afternoon, everyone. I can see a few people still coming in there from the waiting room, but we're going to kick off because we've a lot to fit in the next hour of this webinar. So, welcome to the webinar, Unlock Funding, Access to 30 Funding Mechanisms for Industry. We are delighted to be co-hosting this webinar with Waterford Chamber of Commerce as part of their 2025 Innovation Webinar Series, which is leading up to the annual Toys for Engineer Expo on the 2nd of October. So there's a date for your diaries. Kevin Doolin is Walton's Executive Director, who you will be hearing from shortly, and is Waterford Chamber's current President. He will be highlighting Waterford as the City of Innovation during his tenure as President. This is the first in a series of webinars, so be sure to keep an eye on our socials for details for future webinars in areas such as ChatGPT and AI for Business. My name is Deirdre O'Gorman. I'm the Marketing Manager here in Walton Institute in SETU. Thank you all for joining us. Just some brief housekeeping before we begin. We have a lot to cover in this webinar, as I said, but we're going to do our best to keep it to an hour. What the team will present is a high-level overview of different funding bodies we've experience of working with, such as EU, Enterprise Ireland, and the European Digital Innovation Hub. If you have any questions, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you can just pop any questions you have there and we will answer them at the end. Contact details for each of our speakers will be included at the end of the webinar. If anyone has any additional questions or you'd like to reach out to anyone to begin your innovation journey. We will be recording the webinar and we'll send the slides to everyone over the next couple of days. Our speakers today are Kevin Doolin, Executive Director and President of Waterford Chamber, as I mentioned, Liam Fitzgerald, who is our ICS Technology Gateway Manager, and Hazel Peavoy, Project Lead for Entire, the European Digital Innovation Hub at Walton Institute. I will pass you over to Kevin now, who will give you a brief introduction to Walton, and he will share his expertise in European funding. Thank you and enjoy.
Thanks, Deirdre. Hi, everyone, and we're delighted to see so many people connected into this webinar. It strikes me that clearly people are interested in innovation and research and development and how to get that funded in conjunction with Walton Institute and indeed with the broader SETU. So while this talk is focused primarily around Walton, it is worth saying that the majority of these funding mechanisms can be used to engage with other research centres and groups and so on within SETU as well. So just a very brief overview of the Walton Institute itself. We were founded on my brain. We founded back in 1996 as the TSSG, the Telecommunications Software and Systems Group. And then we were upgraded to become the Walton Institute in 2021. I am the Executive Director, and we have a Director of Research, Dr. Deirdre Kilban. And importantly, we're 100% self-funded. So next, Deirdre, please. So everything we do is through funding secured through competitively won processes, through Enterprise Ireland, through European Commission and Science Foundation Ireland, and so on. So we've built up a quite strong track record of securing funding in collaboration with industry partners. And it got us to the point where we go, okay, we have an expertise in doing this, but we have found from talking to companies, and we talk to companies every day of the week, that it's tricky for them sometimes to navigate and even understand what funding supports are available, and hence this webinar. So very briefly, to date, we've secured over 145 million euro in research funding. We have actually around 80 staff at the moment. We've done 800 projects, the majority of which are in collaboration with industry partners of all sizes. And we've 850 partners and customers worldwide. And a partner or a customer is essentially anybody we've done a funded project with. Next, Deirdre. So within Walton, we're structured into a number of research divisions, and each one will have a particular thematic focus, and I'll talk about those themes in a minute. But what's important and what makes us relatively unique in the research landscape in Ireland is that within these divisions, we blend basic research, applied research, and commercial research. So we've got people working on pure science, all the way up to people doing commercial and pre-commercial R&D and software development. Next, please. So just to give a flavor of some of the topics that we research here in Walton, I suppose our heritage and our legacy is in telecommunication networking and mobile devices and mobile service development, where I should have said we're very much a software-based ICT organization. We do a lot of work as well around communication services. More recently, we've gone into the area of quantum, and in particular, quantum communications. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we're looking at our test beds and facilities. We have a professional services team, and these are the kind of, I suppose, hardcore software developers, testers, and graphic designers and so on that do the pre-commercial and commercial work for Walton Institute. And they engage very heavily with our technology gateway, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. We have a lot of work as well around mixed reality, so that's augmented reality and virtual reality, AI and everything to do with data, smart garments and e-textiles, and molecular communications. We also look at brain-machine interfaces very much, again, on the fundamental science side of things. And then as a catch-all for everything else we do, we've got the Internet of Things. So we see these as essentially enabling technologies that we use within the organization, and then we apply them to pretty much every industry vertical that's out there. So we can do things like smart entertainment, e-health, smart energy. So for example, we have a project at the moment called Sustainability Dingle, looking at energy management systems in Dingle based on solar power and so on. Lots of work around agri-tech type projects, also smart transport, digital tourism and heritage, and fintech. So essentially, you can take all of our technologies and apply them to these multiple different verticals. So we've got something for everybody. In terms of our ecosystem, everything we do is driven by science, and it's at the heart of the organization. And in that scientific part of Walton, we engage obviously with the other research centres and groups within SETU, but also the larger research centres in Ireland, like Vista Milk on the AgTech side, or Lero around software development, or Connect around telecommunication networks. And then we've multiple key academic partners worldwide, like Heriot-Watt University, Fraunhofer Focus, or Poznan Supercomputing Center, and so on. On the innovation side of the house, it's more focused around applied research. And this is where we engage very heavily with leading ICT organizations across Europe, and where we leverage the Horizon Europe and Digital Europe programs for funding to engage with those organizations. And I'll talk about that when we get to the actual funding roadmap piece. On the commercialization side, we have engagement with lots of different incubators like ARC Labs here on our Carriganore campus, and different national networks. And we can help support staff to do spin-out companies, and we can also deal with spin-in companies in that regard as well. And then finally, and by no means any lesser, is our industry engagement side of the house, where through IDA Ireland and Enterprise Ireland, we can engage with companies in Ireland to assist them on their R&D journey, be that through larger scale research and development programs, or through some of the smaller scale things, for example, the technology gateway. Next. So beyond funding and beyond doing research, we also have a number of strategic engagements across Europe. So on this slide here, we're basically showing some of the thematic areas that we deal with in Walton, like content production, or e-textiles, or security, and health, and so on. And under each area, you'll see various different logos. These logos represent high-level technical and academic and industrial working groups and clusters within Europe, where Walton Institute staff are members. Each of these organizations or clusters produces typically annually a strategic research agenda for Europe around their particular topic. So for example, under Agri, we would be engaged there to help define what does Europe need to research in Agri and Agri-tech for the next 5 to 15 years timeframe. We've found through our engagement with companies over the years that companies typically don't have time to go and figure out what Europe is thinking in terms of research and development. So a service we can offer is to engage with companies or groups of companies to give them an update on where research and development is going along these different thematic areas, if that's something that they're particularly interested in. Next, please. So within our Carriganore campus here in Waterford, we have a number of test facilities and laboratories that companies can also leverage, and they can use the funding mechanisms we'll be talking about to leverage those. So I just want to give you a very quick flavor of these. We have an e-textiles facility where effectively we've got a loom that can weave conductive thread into material to make that material smart, essentially. And this could be used, for example, in health applications where you could have a hospital gown that will monitor your vital statistics. Or sports applications, you could detect the impact of a slitter if somebody was to hit you in a hurling match, for example. So anything you can think of that can be detected with a sensor, we can now weave that into smart clothing in our e-textiles facility. We've also a mixed reality lab where we've got all of the latest and greatest technologies for augmented reality and virtual reality. So if you're interested in those type of topics, you can come in, we can show you what we have to offer and do some brainstorming around your products and services to see how they would fit there. Also, for satellite communications, if you're a company that engages in product development that might have a need to communicate with satellites, we have a test facility and simulation facility here that you can use to connect your products up to a simulated satellite to understand what that actually means for your business. Next. Then we've got the digital photogrammetry lab with the lovely 3D picture of me rotating there in the corner. Essentially, we have a machine there called the bot scanner, and you can see it in the bottom middle of the picture. This machine can take a high definition image of essentially any object that we put into it. And once we take that image, we can then import it into virtual reality or augmented reality, or put it online so you can look at it in 3D and so on. Next. Quantum communications, I mentioned already, we're building Ireland's first quantum communication network, which will run from Dublin to Cork through our hub here in Walton Institute, and it will connect out into the European quantum infrastructure in the coming months and years. Next. We're also looking at 6G communications. So what does it mean to have super high speed broadband connectivity, and how can we actually make that happen? And what's it going to mean for products and services for people in the future? Great. Okay, so I've 22 seconds left on I'm looking at my little timer here. So now we're going to move into the bit you all joined for, I guess, which is the funding roadmap. So what we're showing on the slide here is there's two slides on this, but it's a mix of funding elements that different types of industry partners can leverage if they want to engage in research and development either on their own or in conjunction with an academic partner like the Walton Institute. So our plan here is to walk through very briefly each of these options so that you get an understanding of what the options out there are. And if you're interested in them, then you can, of course, contact any of us to go in depth into any of these funding schemes to see which best would suit your business as you go about your innovation journey, essentially. And what we try and do here in Walton is to build up a research and innovation funding roadmap for companies. So typically you won't find a company coming in and just selecting one option. We always try and have a roadmap of funding going into the future, where you might start off with a small piece of research and development, for example, an innovation voucher, but then grow it into, for example, a European project engagement or an innovation partnership. Okay, so I'm going to start into the first tranche of funding options, and this is through Research Ireland, which is formerly known as SFI. So within SFI, there are a number of large-scale R&D centres, such as I mentioned them already, like Vistamilk on the AgTech side, or Future Neuro, or Lero, or Connect. And within each of these, there's very much fundamental research taking place around different thematic areas. Again, like agri-tech or telecommunications or software development, or even detection of neurological disorders using ICT. There's a number of ways for companies to actually engage with and join with these research programs, even if they're already underway. And one of these is the research spokes, as they're called. This is a co-funded mechanism. So essentially, if you're an industry partner and you want to join If you've got let's say a research topic that you wanted to do around agri-tech, you can talk to the center director there for example, for Vista Milk, and help to put in an application where you'll be 50-50 co-funded between SFI Research Ireland and the industry partner. The way to engage in this is to talk, well, you can come and talk to Walton first of all, but you can also go directly to the center managers. If you go to the Research Ireland website, you'll see the different research centres that are out there, and there's contact details for the directors of each of those particular centres. There's another scheme actually as well within Research Ireland, and that's the Industry Fellowship. And this is, again, it's a co-funded scheme whereby an industry partner such as yourselves can split the cost with SFI to place an academic researcher in industry. Oh, my lights have gone. So, for example, you might want to bring somebody with postdoctoral expertise around a particular topic into your company to work for a number of months around a research topic and to develop up a research area for you. And there's funding there through the Industry Fellowship Scheme to actually support that. Okay. Next, we move over to the European side, and the European side of funding is really what started the Walton Institute in the first place, I would say. This is for larger scale type funding mechanisms, and there's two of them on this particular slide. So there's RIA, which is Research and Innovation Action, and then there's IA, which is the Innovation Action. They're both more or less the same type of scheme, except the level of research in an RIA is far more than an IA. Within an Innovation Action, the Commission is essentially looking for projects that will join together existing elements of technology to solve a particular applied research problem. So, for example, recently I ran a large-scale agri-tech project with 60 partners, where we're bringing together all their different technologies to digitalize the agriculture supply chain from farm to fork. We have a strong expertise within Walton of securing European funding. Our success rate there is around 1 in 4 proposals, which is actually significant when you consider the amount of time that it takes to write a European proposal. What's important for people on the webinar to understand is that we essentially take the pain out of writing proposals and bringing companies along with us. So typically, if you were to try and join within a European project proposal, you might only need to write 2 or 3 pages of text. Walton Institute will do all the heavy lifting in the background to get a proposal across the line. And, you know, a proposal could take up to a year in terms of time frame. The amount of funding that's available for companies there is quite substantial. We've had companies come along and get over €1 million in R&D funding. Typically for an SME, it's between 150K and 300K. So if you're interested in this topic, you know, come and talk to me about it, and we can see if there's a call for proposals out there in Europe that would fit with your own research plans and your technology development plans in your company. Next, please. Then there's the Marie Curie action. This is the MSCA actions that come from Europe as well. And there's just 2 funds here that I want to mention. And again, these are co-funded. There's a postdoctoral co-fund. So if there was a postdoctoral researcher, for example, one of our postdocs here in Walton Institute or some of the others in SETU, and they wanted to spend some time working in industry, we can apply to the Marie Curie scheme in Europe to co-fund that work. So again, it would give you as a company an advantage in terms of you could bring a very strong expert in some scientific area into your company to help develop your products and services and your R&D roadmap. There's also, related to this, there's a doctoral co-fund. And the doctoral co-fund is essentially if you've got staff in your organization and they want to pursue a PhD or some other type of doctorate. And that scheme provides supports for leave entitlements and salary requirements and so on as well. So it's useful if you want to grow up a scientific expertise within your company from the ground up. So it's, again, come and talk to us if that's something that you're interested in investigating. Then there's Horizon Europe coordination and support actions. These are typically, I suppose, networking type projects where companies come together. You get funding of about 150 to 300,000 euro if you're an SME. It's not for research and development. It's more for networking and discussing around research topics and setting research agendas. across Europe as well. It's a really good way to get into European networks and to I suppose rub shoulders with the best and brightest in Europe around particular thematic areas as well. Okay. So next we have 3 schemes called under the EIC Pathfinder, and again these are supports for researchers, startups, and SMEs, and that have essentially breakthrough ideas and want to develop their fundamental research ideas to, I suppose, an almost pre-commercial phase. This is more on the fundamental science side of things, but if you've got, you know, some ideas on your maybe not on your critical path in your business, then the EIC schemes, and there's 3 slides on them there, is something that you should strongly consider. So you can go past those, Deirdre, as well. Next, then there's Digital Europe. So Digital Europe is I suppose, the sister funding scheme to Horizon Europe. So where Horizon Europe is focused all around research and development, Digital Europe also has a research and development angle, but it's more focused on infrastructure development and research across Europe. So, for example, this is what partially funds our new quantum facility here in Walton Institute. These are quite difficult funds to actually secure, but we have done it in the past. So if there's a technical area where you think there's a deficiency, either in your company or more likely in a particular region, for example, in Waterford, we could look to Digital Europe to see if there's a funding scheme to get quite substantial capital investment and put new technology in the region. Okay. And then we've cascade funding. This is also known as financial support for third parties. And it's a very useful mechanism for companies that don't have the time or the resources to engage in, let's say, larger scale European projects. These are typically funded at a rate of about 100K to 250K for a 6 to 9 month project. And the way they work is that we would put in an application with yourselves towards a larger scale European project that's already running and that has issued calls for new parties to take technologies out of the project and try them in different contexts. So just to go back to the AgTech example I was talking about a little bit earlier, that was a 17 million euro project, and it developed a platform for digitalization of agricultural data from farm to fork. Within that, then, we use the cascade funding mechanism to fund 17 different SMEs to take parts of that project out and try them in different contexts. Everything from watering of crops in Spain to managing olive groves in Italy and Greece. So we have a whole other presentation that I can give to companies around EU cascade funding if that's something you're interested in. What's really important about it is it's a very short application lifecycle compared to larger EU projects. So you essentially put in, it's typically around a 10-page proposal, and we can help you to work on those. A 10-page proposal, you'll get a response on that in terms of whether it's funded or not within a matter of weeks, as opposed to months, which will be the case with the larger European programs. What's also important to note is to date, Ireland has been relatively poor in terms of drawing down this particular funding scheme. For whatever reason, the Italians and the Spanish organizations seem to be a lot stronger with it. So there's hundreds of thousands of euro there ready to be drawn down and accessed by Irish organizations. So come and talk to me if that's something of interest. Okay, my timer is ringing here. Okay, next I'm going to very quickly just talk about some of the schemes under IDA Ireland. And I should say, with IDA Ireland schemes and with Enterprise Ireland schemes, if you're interested in these, by all means, reach out to us here in Walton to talk to us about them, but also talk to your development advisor within IDA and Enterprise Ireland to see, you know, the different eligibility criteria for the different schemes, just to make sure you're actually available or eligible, I should say. So there's multiple schemes here. There's the IDA collaboration mechanism, which is one on screen here. This is a maximum of up to 7.5 million euro, and there's actually more potentially possible with government approval. Within that, you can use about 10% of the project cost for research consultancy, where then you would bring in the services of organizations within SETU or other universities, and indeed the Walton Institute. Next, please. Then there's the IDA RD&I fund. Again, it's up to 7.5 million. It's open to all IDA client companies. And again, you can bring in the likes of Walton Institute to do about 10% of the project cost there. So let's say you wanted to develop a new, or develop out your research capabilities within your company. You can apply for this funding, of course, with the approval of your development advisor. And you could bring an academic partner in to bolster up the research and innovation side, up to about 10% of the project costs. There's also RD&I feasibility studies that can be undertaken as a precursor to this, which is funded up to €250,000 or 50% of the eligible expenditure. So essentially, this means that you can apply for a smaller, still not insubstantial amount of funding to do a feasibility study around research development and innovation in your organization. Next, please. So we're just about to hand over to Liam. I should also say that within IDA, you can also apply for the schemes that are administered by Enterprise Ireland, such as the innovation vouchers, the IP feasibility, and the innovation partnership project. So Liam is going to talk. Liam Fitzgerald is our technology gateway manager. He's going to talk about the Enterprise Ireland schemes, but just bear in mind when he's talking, these also apply to IDA clients as well. So Liam, I'll hand over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin, and good afternoon, everybody. Liam is my name, and I lead ICS Technology Gateway at the Walton Institute. The Technology Gateway is the commercial interface that supports startups, SMEs, multinational organizations, and others to engage with the expertise of the Walton Institute. As Kevin mentioned, we have about 70 researchers, and we create that segue as opposed to engaging with those researchers. We deliver technology solutions through collaboration on projects which are close to the market needs of industry, and we also deliver solutions to all types of products and services across the entire development process. So we operate in all sectors, and we offer end-to-end solutions for industry. ICS Technology Gateway is co-funded by the Government of Ireland and the European Union through the EDIH Southern, Eastern and Midland Regional Programme 2021 to 27. So over the next 9 minutes or so, I'm going to introduce you to 10 funding mechanisms. You've already had a huge amount of information through Kevin, and there's a lot of information on the slides I'm about to present. But what I'd invite you to do is maybe just, I'm going to give a high-level overview, and hopefully you might spot one or two mechanisms that are of particular interest, and you can come and talk to us about those. So the first three mechanisms I'm going to discuss or speak about are through the local enterprise office. So the local enterprise office, there are 31 local enterprise offices around the country. There's one in every county, and there's more than one in a few counties, and they're a great source of support for business. So the local enterprise office feasibility study grant is a mechanism that's available to, I suppose, initiate your innovation journey by looking at the feasibility of what it is you're proposing. You can spend this feasibility with a third level institution like Walton Institute. Up to 50% of the eligible spend is available, so it's a co-funded mechanism up to a maximum of €15,000. And this mechanism is open to both sole traders and companies. The next mechanism that the local enterprise office offer is the priming grant. Now, this is available to companies, to businesses that are less than 18 months in existence. There again, there's significant investment available, co-funded, 50% co-funded, up to €150,000. Whichever is lesser. And there again, you can spend this priming grant on things like consultancy and innovation costs with a third level institution. So very interesting opportunity as well. The next opportunity is the local enterprise. If you move forward, Deirdre, is the Local Enterprise Business Expansion Grant. Now, the Business Expansion Grant is essentially the same as the priming grant, but it's for businesses that are more than 18 months in existence. So the same amounts are applicable. The purposes are similar. You can use it with a third level institution. It's just for businesses that are more than 18 months in existence. So there are three very interesting mechanisms that the Local Enterprise Office offer. The next mechanism is facilitated and administered by Enterprise Ireland and also available through the IDA, and that's the Innovation Voucher Programme. Now, this is a really important programme from our perspective because it acts as the opportunity to, I suppose, have an initial engagement with many of the companies that come to do business with us. So the Innovation Voucher Programme is important in that context. It was set up to allow businesses and industry to access third level expertise. The vouchers are available through Enterprise Ireland or the IDA, depending on your business. You don't need to be a client of either of these businesses where you're getting an IDA voucher. You would be a client of the IDA, but the opportunity is open to all limited companies registered in the Republic of Ireland. Okay, so whether you're an SME, you're maybe a high potential startup, or maybe large industry up to certain limits. The voucher itself is a 10,000 euro grant. You can get 3 of these grants. You pay the VAT on the voucher, which is 2,300 euro, but that's something that you could recoup depending on your own VAT registration status. There's also an opportunity to have a follow-on, a fourth voucher, if you like, which is a matched voucher where Enterprise Ireland, for example, would invest 10,000 euro, you invest 10,000 euro, and you pay the VAT on the 20,000 euro. So the Innovation Voucher Programme, very, very important programme and a great opportunity to have an initial engagement with us in the Walton Institute. The next opportunity is the innovation feasibility. So where a client business has engaged with us and maybe has done 1 or 2 or 3 innovation vouchers, have built their product or their concept to a particular stage, we might then look at an innovation feasibility, which is a 9,000 euro grant for an academic partner to assess the feasibility of bringing a project forward for the innovation partnership program, which I will speak about in 1 minute. So this is ultimately a segue into a bigger funding mechanism, and there again, the Walton Institute, we would write this on your behalf. So the next one is the Innovation Partnership Program. Now, this is a very important program as well, and as Kevin said, we like to bring people, I suppose, on a journey which might culminate in doing an innovation partnership program. It's for highly innovative projects. So there is a bar that one needs to meet in terms of what you're proposing to do. It needs to be highly innovative, and by definition, often will be high risk. But the level of funding that's available for the project is up to 80% or 200,000 euro from Enterprise Ireland. The industry or business partner would need to make a cash contribution of at least 20% to the project, and possibly in kind, depending on the size of the business involved. So there again, it's open to any clients of a local enterprise office, Enterprise Ireland, the IDA, or Údarás na Gaeltachta. So whether you're an SME, a HBSU, a startup potentially, or a large industry player. The next funding mechanism there again, which might end up being the next stage after an innovation partnership program. There's a lot of text on this and that you can read yourself subsequently, but there's an opportunity through this funding mechanism maybe for a consortium type project where the likes of Walton Institute or SETU could be a partner in the consortium, and it gives the academic institution on behalf of the company would write the proposal for something like this. So there again, a very interesting mechanism. The next mechanism, and this is one that's open, there's a call open for this Disruptive Technologies Innovation Fund currently, call 7. The call closes in April coming. So where any industries or any businesses are interested in getting involved in this, you would need to speak to us pretty quickly if you would like us to chat about it. Projects need to be 1.5 million at minimum over a 3-year period. There needs to be one SME involved, and there needs to be one enterprise partner involved. And obviously, we as an academic institution would also like to be involved. It's open to similar clients of the various support agencies. And there again, it's for disruptive technologies, high risk, high innovation projects. Up to 9 and 10 million type level projects would be acceptable. And sitting on the national research priority areas, one priority area being ICT is obviously in focus and important. The next mechanism is, and this is an Intertrade Ireland mechanism, it's the Innovation Boost programme. This programme facilitates and nurtures, I suppose, cross-border collaboration. The collaboration will be between a business and an academic partner. There needs to be a cross-border element. So if you are a Southern-based business, for example, you would be collaborating with a Northern Ireland-based academic partner. So we in Walton Institute are very interested in hearing from any Northern Ireland-based businesses who might like to collaborate. The way the funding works is that Intertrade Ireland supports the academic partners funding up to 100%. A project manager is employed by the business for an 12 to 18 month project, and the academic partner, 50% of that project manager cost is covered by Intertrade Ireland for the business, and the academic partner mentors and supports the project manager on the innovation project. So that's a very interesting cross-border collaboration available through Enterprise Ireland. The last mechanism, just on time, I hope that I've just to mention is I suppose direct consultancy, that you can pay directly to engage with us in Walton Institute with the research community. We obviously there are various rates that apply depending on what it is you're looking to do and the length of time it would take and so on and so forth. But if you are looking to accelerate your innovation, if you want to go and get a very quick response, certainly consultancy work is something that we're very open to. And given the scale of the Institute with 70 research staff, quite obviously we have a lot of capacity. So look, hopefully that gives you a quick overview of some interesting mechanisms. If you want to talk to me, I'm available at liam.fitzgerald@waltoninstitute.ie. So thank you.
All right, next slide there, Deirdre. Thank you very much. So my name is Hazel Peavoy, and I'm the Senior Strategic Business Partner here at Walton. And at the moment, I'm currently leading a project under the European Digital Innovation Hub umbrella called Entire. So we, unlike some of the services that Liam and Kevin have just mentioned, we have quite a number of funding avenues for both SMEs and public service organisations. And what I decided to do today is to give you a quick overview of what a digital innovation hub is, how we work, and the very early stage services that we can actually deliver into you. If you check our website, which is through the Walton website and also through Entire, you'll see that we have over 45 services already positioned on the website, and there will be some more around skills development. So the European Digital Innovation Hubs, they're predominantly there to support the digital transformation of SMEs and public service organisations, and to ensure that they're actually uptaking on these new digital technologies that are being brought about by research organisations such as ourselves and other organisations across Europe. And it's just to encourage the actual adoption of these technologies. So they see the EDIs, and I'll refer to the European Digital Innovation Hubs as EDIs in this presentation. That's what they're being called across Europe. So we're one-stop shops, effectively, where organisations, SMEs and public service organisations can come to us to access technical expertise and to also leverage and deploy technology through experimentation. So Kevin earlier on would have mentioned the labs across Walton and also some of our other partners. We can test the technology that you are looking to deploy within your SME. Alongside that, we're also looking at skills development as well. So part of our remit is to actually support you in skills development. So as an example, through our partners in UCC, we are looking at developing training or deploying training around the AI Act as well, which is something that you need to note going forward. So Deirdre, next slide. So how does Entire function? So we function through a network of experts. So we have 5 partners within our consortium. We also can leverage the network of EDIs across Europe. There are over 300 across Europe at the moment. But we have 4 pillars in which we deliver. So test before we invest services, where you've got access to test beds, advanced technologies, and we can look to see how you can actually leverage those going forward. Skills development piece I mentioned, which is to enhance your digital capabilities so that you can actually deploy the technology both within your organization, but also if there's a skills development piece for your stakeholders, we can undertake that as well. Support to find investment as well. We've got supports around proposal writing so that you can actually deliver additional funding through your SME. So one of those, as an example, is we've got an Enterprise Ireland voucher application support, which is €1,500. So if you wanted to get an innovation voucher with the gateways across Europe, we can assist you with the proposal writing around that. Also, the networking piece, you can consider the EDIs as your gateway into Europe. So you would have heard Kevin earlier on talking about Horizon Europe IAs. So again, we would be delivering a service where we would help you and support you to onboard into proposals and into projects. And I'll give a little bit more information about that further down the line. So we go on to the next slide, please, Deirdre. So just to give you an idea of how you actually engage with our services, because I'm conscious that a lot of people on this webinar may not have even heard of an EDI or what an EDI is as such. So we're quite different to the gateways in how you actually apply for our services. So you can take a look at the entire website and you'll see all of the services listed there at the moment. And please do take a look at it on an ongoing basis because we are uploading more services and more skills development pieces as well. The best advice that I can give to you is to schedule a meeting with our team. And from there, we confirm your eligibility with Enterprise Ireland, and that is through your de minimis aid. So your de minimis aid is state aid that is afforded to you. It's €300,000 across 3 years. And once we agree on your first service, you then sign a declaration form where we can then draw down your de minimis aid to effectively pay for the service. The services are 100% funded through your de minimis aid. The stage 3 then, which is the very first service, is a digital maturity assessment. You can come in, you can do a digital maturity assessment independently, but we have found it best to deliver the first service as a discovery and assessment. So Deirdre, if you move on to the next slide. The discovery and assessment then is a 2-hour service, which includes your DMA journey. So the digital maturity assessment is an interview that we do with you. It's a series of questions that we put in to the EDI portal, which is linked to the European Commission. And we can assess your digital maturity assessment, your digital maturity level. So you can see here on the right-hand side of the slide, an indicator of somebody's digital maturity level, and then the score based on dimensions. That will begin a conversation for us, and off the back of this very first service of €2,500, we can then determine what are the next key steps for you to take and what services we can deliver into you, but also more importantly, how you then segue from the EDI into other possible funding avenues, such as the gateway through Enterprise Ireland, or whether it's in through European project, or whether it's in through any one of the funding mechanisms that Kevin Doolan mentioned earlier. Just to say that the EDIs are supported through the European Commission. You'll see here on the left-hand side the funding bodies, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment under the Recovery and Resilience Fund, and then the funding facilitator of this fund is Enterprise Ireland. So if we move to the next slide. Once you've got your discovery and assessment undertaken, which you have to do a DMA in order to engage with the EDIs, we would then normally, we've been up and running now for the best part of a year, we would then normally do a technological analysis for you, which is to look at the current capabilities of the proposed technologies. So once you've actually met with our experts, as Kevin rightly said, the engineers internally here and our researchers internally within Walton, whilst you might be able to come to the table with an idea, they might have a more advanced idea for you as to the possibility of the technologies that may be able to enhance your business. So certainly I would advise from an EDI perspective, even if you know that you want to enhance your company and you just don't know which direction to go in, certainly the discovery and assessment service is the best first step to take. The technical analysis then will look at the technical capabilities that you might want to deploy across your organization. Next slide then, please. Off the back of that, once we've decided on the technology that you might need, well, what are the requirements, and can your actual idea turn from theory, and what are the requirements that are actually needed to make it realized? And then that's part of the next service that we can actually deliver. Once you've done these services, even as early as the technology piece, you don't necessarily have to do the requirements piece. You're almost ready at that stage to apply for an innovation voucher, as an example. But again, we can do, and there is a service on our website where we can look at a funding roadmap for you and the possibility of funding roadmap. If you go to the next slide then. You'll see that these services that I've chosen today are kind of telling a little bit of a story for you. The next one then is the stakeholder engagement workshop, because of course now you've got your technology, you know what the requirements are for your business, but what actually do the stakeholders that you engage with, what are their needs? So your end users. So what are their actual needs in relation to the technology that you're hoping to deploy? As an example, we're engaged at the moment with one public service organisation, and it's really important that we understand their stakeholder needs, so that we can understand what kind of technology we need to deploy, so that the stakeholder will engage with the technologies that we're hoping to deploy. I would have mentioned earlier on about the skills development piece in relation to that work that we're doing with the public service organisation. There are two additional key components there, where we do have to train up the staff within the public service organisation, but then we also have to deliver training to the stakeholders as well to ensure that they can use the technology that we're looking to deploy. So if we move to the next slide. So I would have mentioned then about the EDIs being kind of your gateway into Europe as well. And the European collaborations and the funding is also key as well. So we can give you, or we have I suppose, a front seat in Europe, and we understand the funding that's coming down the line. So we'll know and be aware of open calls that are due to be opened prior to them actually being online. So as an example, with the Agri Data Partnership, there are open calls that are due later in this quarter in 2025. But we can also offer additional supports where we can, as an example, you'll see in this particular diagram, where you can get your pre-concept services done through Entire. You could get your technology development done through Enterprise Ireland. And then we could onboard you into the TEF Agri-Food project, where you can actually deploy and experiment the technologies that you wish to deploy into real live farms, as an example. I'm just using agriculture as one example here. And then you'll actually be then brought back into an EDI for the actual training piece around the technology. Again, both internal and external training as well. I suppose from my point of view, that's it for me today. I know there's a lot of information, but I would encourage anybody that has got questions around the EDI themselves to actually reach out to the team. There is a form on our website, and I'm sure Deirdre will share the content of this particular webinar as well. So that's my last slide. Kevin, I might refer back to you at this stage. Thank you.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thanks, Hazel. Thanks for that. So you can see our contact details there if anybody wants to follow up. Like, we do realize that that was a bit of an information bomb. There was quite a lot of information there, and really we just want to whet the appetite for anybody who's dialed in. As you can see, there's multiple options out there for companies at all stages of the innovation journeys, from being well advanced to literally having nothing. So the message here is, come and talk to us here in Walton and in SETU. We're here to help, and we're here to help you secure funding. And more importantly, we're here to help you on your innovation journey. And I will say, as in my role as president in Waterford Chamber, it's really important to me to see that, particularly organizations in Waterford and in the region, push further on their innovation journey as well. So again, come and talk to me. We were to have a Q&A session, but there's no open questions at the moment from participants. So I think we could probably a little bit early wrap it up, unless anybody wants to put in a question using the Q&A mechanism there on the webinar. I'll just pause for a second or two if they want to do that. And while I'm pausing, I will say, you know, so if you have an idea, come out to us in Walton and talk, come in and see the labs and facilities. We can workshop your ideas with you, and let's see if we can build something really good together, essentially. I really appreciate everyone dialing in. It's very heartening to see there's such a good attendance on the webinar, actually, and there's a lot of people interested in pursuing innovation. Great. Okay. I think Deirdre, we can probably wrap it up at that if there's no questions coming, just people saying thanks. So you're welcome, everybody. I want to say thanks to the team. Thanks to Deirdre for organizing this webinar. It took her a while to kind of pull us all together and get us all going in the same direction. So Deirdre, thanks for that. Hazel, leave your hand up.
Yes, sorry, just to say that because I am conscious that some of the companies that we've dealt with through the EDIs, they know that they need to digitize their organization, but they might not necessarily have the idea themselves and they don't really know where to start. I would highly recommend that they come in through the EDI and do a discovery and assessment, and that we point them then in a direction from there. Because certainly our engineers and researchers across all of SETU and also our partners within the EDI have multiple ideas. So if you don't necessarily have an idea, but you want to digitize, I would still encourage you to come to us. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Hazel. So Deirdre, I'll hand back to you. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think everything is covered there. Thanks a million, and I can't believe we managed to stay on time, which is great. We actually finished early, which is unheard of for such an informative webinar. Thank you all for joining as well. And as I said at the start, keep an eye on our socials and on the Chamber of Commerce socials as well. There'll be a lot more webinars coming over the next few weeks and months, and all of the recordings and the slides will be sent out over the next couple of days. If there are any topics that you want us to cover in particular, please do let us know. We'd love to cover everything as much as we can for you. I think sometimes it's easy for us to assume knowledge, but we really do want to help as much as possible. There is a question there, I'm not sure who can answer. What are the recommendations for a young researcher for a PhD to apply or secure funding?
Yeah, I could take that, Deirdre. So I would recommend you keep an eye on the Walton website or actually the SETU website, because there are very often opportunities coming up where there's calls for new PhD students and associated funding to go with that. So keep an eye on the websites as well. You can also, if you want, drop me an email with your potential topic area, and I can have a look and see, is it possible to match you up potentially with a supervisor within Walton or within SETU, or actually within our broader academic network as well. We're here to support. So if you just drop me an email, you have my contact details on the screen there, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Great. I think we will end it there. Thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it.
See you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.